Welcome to the Rebel Matriarch podcast. My name is Samantha Sanford and I am your host, and I want to invite you into this session with an open heart and an open mind, because this is not just a podcast. It is a global movement, a global uprising, and this is a representation of what is truly possible and available to women today. Hello, gorgeous woman, and welcome to the Rebel Matriarch podcast. My name is Samantha Sanford, and I am really excited to be introducing this guest to you because I find her fascinating. And I recently became connected with her on social media, and I started to see what she was posting, and I was like, what on earth are you talking about? This is freaking amazing. Like, what is it that you do? And so I actually I headhunted her and I said, please be on my podcast, because one, I need to know more about what you do, and two, I love introducing these amazing quantum modalities and opportunities for women to receive these incredible healing opportunities so that they can really show up in life whole, complete, in their full personal power and completely activated. So I am just I'm not even able to articulate what it is that Angelique does. And so I'm going to bring Angelique up and I'm going to ask her to introduce herself and what it is that she does, because it is absolutely fascinating. So thank you so much for being here, lovely.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here, and I am very excited. So, as Samantha mentioned, my name is Angelique. And yeah, I don't know what I do either a lot of the time, and neither are my clients. I've often had them say, I don't know what you do. I know it works, and it's magic.
I love this.
There is a process to it, but there is a process to it. It's a combination, it's a synthesis of things. It's using quantum healing. It's using Chinese medicine. It's using modern medicine. It's using chakras. It's using archetypes. And through all of these layers, we ask the body to guide us into its most natural steps to take to unravel our so-called issues into a natural state of healing and recalibration.
So, in layman terms, or can you give us an example of what that looks like to help bring it home?
Absolutely. So this is mostly my favorite example is it's for the woman who feel that their partner chewing creates scenarios in their mind where murder becomes acceptable. It's the socks are too loud. It's the children are irritating me and I'm about to have several coffins in the house. It is just when your body is like just tight, you do the somatic work, you do the breath work, you've got awareness of the trauma. You've got all these things going on. And what I then do is bring it down to very simple things. The liver not really living up to its full potential as your house of soul, your thoughts, not stomaching the thoughts of things, having issues in the large intestine because we're holding on to grief and not letting things go. So it brings it back to those kind of aspects where fight or flight kicks in and we start getting addicted to those chemicals and the body's never really resting. So everything ends up kind of overwhelming us. That's the work that then comes in.
Wow. I feel like it's endless, the possibilities of what we could address in session with you.
And I've worked over the last 13 years with topics that range from money to relationship to fibromyalgia to a random ticking in the eye that doctors couldn't pick up, to partners, to kids, business models. Like the energetics of it is literally endless.
This fascinates me. Clearly, I've only said it 4,000 times, because there are so many practical approaches to so many of these situations or illnesses or how we're feeling in our body. And like logically, we can maybe figure some aspects out. But I feel like the work that you do is like so much deeper than what we're actually aware of, that I'm just I'm almost speechless. I'm like, this this is like, I feel like everyone should have access to this, because there are so many women who are completely unaware and they don't even realize that they've got health issues, or that this is linked with that and that's happening because of this, or that they've got, you know, like a stress hormone addiction or a cortisol addiction, or all the things, right? They don't even know that that's a thing. And then you've got so many women that are fully invested in trying to better themselves, in upgrading their health, and even they're not aware of the depth of how everything is linked and coinciding.
Yeah.
So you have a magician like yourself that comes in and it's like boom, 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 boom. What? I can't like
It's incredible because even in my own journey, you know, I've been doing this for 13 years. I started when I was 17 with it. So I was like really young when I started. And just seeing how my life has evolved when I started since I was 17 to now being in my 30s, there's been so many times that I'm like, oh, I've got healing down to a T. And then I do a session for myself, like I did recently on a lot of my posts. I was like, oh, caught red-handed in my own bullshit here, because there was stuff coming in there and I was like, oh, wow, Angelique, this pattern has been riding the wave for many, many years. And now it's popping up, you know, and it just goes like a level deeper every single time. I've had clients literally phone me in tears and say, I've had the first shower in my entire 52 years because my anxiety around water is just gone. Like, there's no words to describe how that happens. And if I go back and show you what the session looked like, it was visibility in business. It was wanting to earn better income with clients. And then it goes into like, oh, the stomach here and a little bit of a thing there with the heart or this or that. And it all seems so random. But when you put the pieces together, it's like perfect clarity. It's like, oh, suddenly the craving for curry at 2 o'clock in the morning makes sense. It's like suddenly the chocolate craving makes sense. It's suddenly the cravings just disappear. And that's something that I really love about this, is it's not just, I'm not just a magician for finding out what's happening. The body implements such interesting, unpredictable changes that clients just go like, it happened so easy. I didn't have to force myself to do affirmations. I didn't have to force myself to do it. I just found myself in the middle of doing it. And I was like, what? I need to tell Angelique, I just did the thing that I've been complaining I haven't been able to do. Like that's the level of it. And it's like mind blowing every time.
this is incredible. So the lady that was able to have a shower because her fear of water was just dissolved. All the work that
you
you
didn't
did,
even realize.
and then all the work that you
You-
did wasn't even relevant to that. It was just like piecing everything together and addressing all the things so that her body could align, and her fear of water was able to just dissolve.
Yes. It was an entire identity shift that happened for her, where around business and around her life as a person, where she was segmenting herself in relation with visibility, when we brought her entire identity back to its core, she instantly, no craving chocolate, no chocolate cravings, no. Literally, she said to me, I didn't even realize that my phobia for the shower disappeared until mid-shower with me humming in the shower. And I was like, caught myself doing it. It wasn't even conscious that it had shifted. And that's something that I find so empowering, is that's the work that I do. And I ask my clients, like, what changed for you? A lot of the time they don't know unless we document it, unless they're very aware and keep track of things, because they'll suddenly just not do something and not even realize they're not doing it. It's like transformation on a level where it's so unique to them, so just like
Yeah,
that it's just
this is
mind blowing to watch.
fascinating. Okay, so then how did this start? Because before we jumped on the call, you were sort of explaining that, you know, there's quantum work, there's Chinese medicine, there's so many different modalities. But how do you even get into this? Or like I feel like it's not just that you've studied it or implemented it. I feel like you have a gift as well. Would that be accurate?
But I do have a very unique upbringing. I chose a family constellation that supported my growth from a young age. So I was like 4 years old when my grandmother had me visualizing clouds and meditation practices. I was 7 when I joined my first angel workshops. I was 10 when I did my first alpha mind training, going into the subconscious mind and building buildings and quantum and engaging with the world of the subconscious mind in that alpha state. So I've been training literally a lifetime to be where I am. It's been a dedication of my life to be in healing, to be in transformation, to be in wholeness, because I find that as I've grown, I still had normal human experiences. I still got bullied. I still had to go through my first heartbreak. And I think a lot of the time when we hear in the spiritual world and in healing world about women that discover it later in life, they have these kind of like awakenings when they're in their 40s and 50s, when life kind of changes, their chemicals have changed, they're looking for new meaning and purpose. There's this big stigma that your entire life shifts and that there's one world or another. And my entire life has been the integration period. It's been every step of the journey, there's integration. Every step of the journey, there's learning. Every step of the journey, there's healing. And there has to come like a time of peace and acceptance that it's an ever evolving thing. There's never an end point. There's always another level. So that's where my journey began. So it started really young when I joined Reconnect as a modality. They were the only people that would accept me because of my age, because I was 17. They were the only ones that said, we'll take a child, in essence, to come and learn this. And yeah, it kind of just spiraled from there.
Amazing. So then, who does your grandmother have to be? And was it your mother as well, or was it more so your grandmother?
I was raised by three very powerful women.
Yes.
So we were, I always joke and say it was like a coven because
Yes.
each of them have their own unique gifts. My aunt is the tarot whiz and the astrology whiz. My mom is the body talk whiz, and she's now in coaching as well. So, you know, I had the three pillars of very powerful women in each way, unique spiritual essences that guided me through my upbringing and growth in this.
What would that have been like? Because most of us, like I feel 99% of us, have not grown up in this environment. You know, I got on into maybe when I was in my 20s, I really started to open up to the spiritual world. You know, I studied religion and then I was like, nope, it's not clicking into place for me. And then I opened up to spirituality, and then I really like opened up into the quantum and ancient civilizations, like all of it, right? So like nothing you say will shock me. But that was like a discovery piece later on in life. I didn't have anyone. No one in my family probably knows the depth of my commitment to the spiritual realm. But what was it like for you to grow up in this environment? And you probably don't even know that. No, you might know the difference actually, because you would have seen
I
people.
do know the difference.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tell me.
I'll be very honest, it's incredibly lonely as a child to grow up in that, because that journey doesn't end in terms of, yes, I had a collective of people, but then I had to go into the real world. I was at school. I went through bullying. I went through having very rigid boundaries because I knew who I was from a very young age. There was no self-discovery in that sense. Like I knew what I was here for. I knew what I was going to do. I was that really weird kid that was very mature because I just saw the world differently. I mean, 10-year-olds going for subconscious mind, then coming to school, being so aware of learning and studying that all the kids, you know, would really bully me about that. So there was still wounding. There was still real life experience. Trying to find the right relationship became a challenge because in my country, most people don't do what I do. Actually, I'm the only Reconnect practitioner in the whole of South Africa. So, you know, it became, it's a blessing and a curse at the same time, because now your paradigm is so different. I grew up with Louise Hay on the bedside table. If I had a niggly pain or I was vomiting at 2:00 in the morning, there was no sympathy. It wasn't like, oh, baby, let's get you some vomiting pills, or it's why are you angry? What's your liver upset about? Like, you know, what happened at school? Why are you rejecting life? You know, it's like these really weird, really hard questions that are even hard to do when you're an adult. And now as a child, you have these same questions. So it's liberating and constricting at the same time. It's like a really strange balance. It's a really interesting paradigm because you could look at it both ways. It's like very mature child or embodied child. You know, there's a lot of that. So what it's taught me and what it felt like was learning about acceptance, the story that I tell, because it could be spun 10 different ways. So the identity work around that is, I find, more prevalent than when discovering it later on. Because it's identity work at every point. It's identity work at, am I really believing this? Is this who I am? There's constant self-awareness. So it's constantly micro-shifting identity.
Wow. Okay. I'm just tuning into, gosh, what that would have actually felt like being a kid and being so switched on. And even knowing what was happening with your peers, right? You're like, you know why they're responding to you the way that you're responding, and still, and then going home and then not having sympathy, but it's kind of like, let's sit with this, like, what's going on? That's amazing.
Yeah.
What was it like then? Because I think you mentioned it was difficult to also find a partner. Obviously, that would be able to accept all of you.
Mm-hmm.
What was that journey like? Meeting, because you're married now. So
Not married, but living with someone. Yes.
living with someone. So
we're living together.
my apologies.
No, don't stress.
I
I have very rigid beliefs on marriage. So I'm like, oh, I'm not signing that contract.
love this. Yes. Okay. But you're in a committed relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was it like when you started dating, being who you were?
It was the most shameful part of my entire life. I was a very confident child, very self-aware child. Teenage years, very confident in who I was, very self-assured of who I was. Partners became my shame. There was a level of hiding that I discovered when I started dating. There was a level of, I need to be the perfect girl because I've got so many things I need to accept about me that's different, that I instantly self-shamed. Instantly. I would like a guy and instantly just hide all the best things about myself because they're all related to my gifts. Don't be
Hang on.
don't be so weird.
Sorry.
And
mute for a second.
Oh.
But we're back.
It became a very much I can't show them this part of myself because they'll reject me. And I think, as I got older, I realized that some of that was what we would call the witch's wound of being persecuted for being into the esoteric, into the very tapped in things. But at the same time, I was trying to bring myself down to their level because they were not in the spiritual community. They had very rigid upbringings. They were the complete opposite to what I was. And it took a lot of years in my life to go through that. And I still ended up with a narcissistic boyfriend that was partly the cause of my suicide attempt a few years ago. And a lot of trauma around relationships just because I was literally shaming myself into having to be smaller to fit the idea of what relationships were.
Wow.
So that's the darker side of being aware, is usually what I find with women who have had awakenings later in life or discovered it later. There's already been relationships, there's been standards, there's been like growth with a partner, and then the growth happens together. I was coming in at like when I started dating, I was 18. What 18-year-old guy usually would be into all this quantum entanglement talk, understanding their organs, understanding manifesting, it usually takes a few years longer for them. So I was really coming in at a different frequency, at a different level, with different expectations. And at the time, I never realized how much of my power I was pushing on them. So it created a lot of friction. That self-control only came in like to the end of my 20s.
It usually does take a while to kick in, does it? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that part of the journey, is recognizing. It took me a long time to come to terms with that, because it was recognizing that even though I had all this knowledge and all this wisdom, I still had to live it. I still had to bump my head. I still had to learn what a relationship was. I still had to learn how to give and take in a relationship. Like that partnership thing is work. Then I understood why everyone said it takes work, because it's a conscious skill that needs to be learned. So even with all the knowledge, it's just, been.
You still have to show up as a human, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You still have to do the human things. You still shower, you still wash your hair, you still eat food. There's no escaping the very tangible life experience.
Absolutely. If you don't mind dipping into the depth of the hardness when it came to relationships, because I feel like so many women, when they start dating, have very similar experiences, not to the same intensity as yours, because you're a very unique, powerful woman. But we all sort of show up in our relationship not really showing our full expression of self. We're not really, we're wanting to put our best foot forward. I feel like most people do anyway, because,
Most people are.
yeah. But then there's a lot of us that kind of continue this illusion of perfection. And then, the relationship deepens and we end up in a relationship that has a lot of friction, and then there's potentially children involved. And it's like, well, do we split? Do we stay together? We want to stay together for the kids. Or, we've invested so many years in this person. Like, do we stay? Do we go? Like, and there's a lot of people in relationships where they're not feeling fully expressed or 100% themselves, and they don't feel safe to be 100% themselves. And from what you were saying, in terms of, there was a suicide attempt, what did that teach you about who you are and how important it is to actually show up 100% yourself?
I would say that there's a few lessons here that I've been learning myself and still learning, because this is the first partnership that I've had that's mirrored a healthy relationship. And when I say that, I mean, I've been through a lot of guys. At some point, I went on 42 dates in a row. I was like a Hallmark movie all on my own. Went to multiple dates, just trying to figure out what I wanted. And what I've learned along this for myself, and if applicable to other women, but for myself mostly, was that firstly, the rules that we hear, like the 4 agreements, come in handy. The stuff that like Mel Robbins teaches, where it's like, let them. So handy, so useful, because once I started then digging deeper into what I was not only projecting onto my partner of what I felt a perfect partner was supposed to be, half my friction disappeared. When I started accepting them for who they were and started not taking it personally when I felt they were projecting onto me, it changed the game. Because if I say to my partner, like last night, for example, he'd be like, we're taking the kids for a walk. By kids, I mean our cat and our dog. We take them for a walk and it was cold. And he's like, I'm cold, we're going back. And I was like, oh, impatient are we? And he said, no. I said, I am cold. That would be a great example. In that moment, I was like, yeah, sure, you're cold and not just impatient, because that was my projection. I was impatient with the cat, not wanting to go home. Caught myself on that one, but he had a good boundary. He was like, I am cold. And a lot of the time, that's unfortunately what we do. We try and read in between the lines. We try and project our idea of someone or how we think they should respond onto them. And this counts for everything, not just relationships with our partners, but with our kids, with our mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, family members, colleagues, clients. Sometimes we expect clients to show up in ways that we ourselves wouldn't show up. There's a lot of expectation out there in terms of that relationship point. So, what I learned from my very toxic relationship, what had happened was I had just put my business online for the first time. And I had a lot of sexual harassment, like really vulgar stuff, like, I'm not hearing what you're saying. All I can imagine is you doing, or whatever, like really vulgar stuff. And it was actually a guy that was really into me that got his friends to do this so that I would feel weak and he could be the saving hero. And that was a relationship that showed me the darkest parts of myself. It was the anger, the self-harm that came really naturally in that relationship just because of the container of it, the abuse, the level of self-hatred that he showed me I had for myself because I stayed so much longer than I should have, just craving his acceptance. And that shifted after that when I realized, like, I can't force anyone to love me at that level. What one person hates about me, another person is going to love about me. So my advice here is always, if you feel content and if you feel like the projection is internal, where your partner's not really shaming you, you're shaming yourself for the new level, stay. Make it work. If there's areas where it's really abusive, where there's a lot of gaslighting and you can prove it, and it's not just in our heads, because sometimes it is a safety projection yet again of the body to think someone's gaslighting us when we ourselves are causing the drama and we don't realize it. Be real, get proper feedback from specialists. Is this person really like I think they are, or am I projecting onto them? If it's dangerous, get out. If it's just self-internal conflict that's showcasing itself and mirroring itself, do the inner work. Speak to your partner. Learn to communicate differently. If they're not willing to do it, let them, and then let it naturally fizzle out. Like, it sounds counterintuitive, but there's two people that I always remember that spoke in the back of my mind when I was going through this. And that was Abraham Hicks had treat love like a subscription. So when it no longer fulfills you and feels good, unsubscribe. And a mentor of mine that said there are always three people in a relationship: the you, the I, and the love. So it has to always be the three. Once we start merging ourselves with the person and the love starts disintegrating because we're expecting them to be us and us to be them, that's when a lot of the chaos ensues as well. And that's something I saw with myself. I would suddenly like rugby because my partner was playing rugby and I hate rugby. I'd suddenly find myself sitting at water polo games, even though I hate it, just because I wanted to be the good girlfriend. Now with my partner, he goes radio control flying on a Saturday. I'm like, okay, bye, babe, love you. And I'll stay home and read a book. And it just took like one identity to another, like very needy, very wanting to be seen, wanting to be felt, wanting to be accepted, into accepting myself, into choosing myself, into saying, I don't care if I'm alone or not. And everything in my relationships changed.
That's powerful. That's powerful. It really is that identity shift, isn't it? From wanting to be and do everything with them and then going, actually, what do I like? And is it safe for me to actually just like what I like and let them like what they like and not have to change anything? Like, do we have to be like in sync and doing all the things together? I think that was the biggest shift in my relationship too, when it was like, oh, it's like, yes, you can go forward driving, you can go camping. No, I won't be. No, I won't be joining you. I'll be staying home. But you have fun with your friends. And I feel like a lot of women feel that their partners have to be like with them every step of the way, as opposed to it's two people, like two people supporting and loving each other and growing together, but we're not growing the same.
No, and I find that when I do the work with my clients as well, You know, when we go into the body and the body starts assisting with stuff, when we have liver pop in, when we have gallbladder come in, when we have all of these internal parts of the being supporting us through the journey, it suddenly makes sense as well, because, you know, a lot of the time relationship issues have heart, or it has spleen because there's no joy, or there's no assimilation in the stomach, you know, because we're not really assimilated. So a lot of it comes from the self. And I think, you know, we hear about identity work. It's very mental work. Usually it's a lot of figuring it out. And the embodiment is something that we don't really understand when we're doing it. And it takes a lot of conscious choice. And then the inner body starts reproducing that version of us. And it's small shifts. It's understanding emotions are electric impulses. They're supposed to last a few seconds at a time. We hold on to stories. Energy and motion throughout the entire body is always supposed to be in motion. There's cell regrowth for a whole new heart I think it's a year. You know, our tongue, every day it produces new cells. We've got constant renewal and growth, and yet think how often we stay in the same, because our programming stays the same, our mind stays the same, we think about ourselves the same. And yet every single day we're actually meeting ourselves in a new space, in a new mind state, in a new space, you know, like vibrational energy. And it takes conscious awareness to stay in that now energy, to stay in that. Am I holding my partner's argument from last week against him because it's still valid? Or am I holding on it because I'm not over it? Am I holding on to my childhood trauma because it's still valid?
Yeah.
Or because it was my safety mechanism for 20 years?
I feel like a lot of us are being called out in a loving way. Well, give me some more.
I do too. I do too. There's just so that anyone, like, I'm always very honest about that. Even in my journey, I have always said, like, I myself go through these things. We are still human. Just before this call, actually, my cat last night had stolen my earbuds. So this morning I was screaming at the cat, not screaming, but I was like, he's such a naughty child. And like, I was really mad at her. I was like, properly planning how to skin the cat, not really, but in my head, I was so mad. And I was like, okay, it's fine. It's not the end of the world. It felt like the end of the world because I know that if I don't have my tags on my AirPods, then they go all over my ears and I get irritated. So these are things that I constantly speak about. Just because I do the work, it showcases. It never ends. There's always a layer. There's a trigger. There's, if I dig into it, I could be like, okay, well, it's because I've always had someone take something from me or destroy something of mine. And when I think that it's in the place that I'm supposed to leave it, the cat now took it elsewhere. There's like this whole thing that goes through the energy field. And if you're conscious enough to pick it up, it becomes oh, okay. But I don't force it. I don't shame it. I don't guilt it. I just go like, okay, that's a curiosity. Bring it in. Let's see where it's sitting. Throw it out if it's not needed.
I really want women to lean in on that, because we're so good at shaming ourselves and judging ourselves rather than being curious about it and actually just contemplating it and going, oh. And I can imagine that a lot of the women that come to see you and work with you are in a very similar situation. Do you have, because you talk about it so simply, right? You sort of talked us through your process and you were like, oh, and it's like, it gets to be that simple, but it's practice,
Yes.
right? Like, you didn't just get there magically. Do you have some advice or some tips or tricks or questions that maybe you ask yourself to sort of allow yourself to be curious rather than shame and judge?
The moment I recognize there's pushing, and us as women are so good at this, We are so good at pushing our partners for answers, pushing our clients for results, pushing our kids to their potential even when they're not ready, pushing our family to see their wounds when they're not wanting to. We're really good at pushing, like
Yes, we are.
extraordinarily good at it. And when I speak about feminine energy within the work with my clients, I don't mean that it's the bubble bath and the spa that day and the nails and the receiving in just like sitting in the couch. It is the stepping back and allowing the pull to happen, the tugging to happen. And from pulling and tugging, there's a very different energy. That's the feminine energy, where you're being led and guided by your heart, by your gut, by your embodiment. There's a very different energy. I always say, like, if you had to imagine, the pushing is someone going behind you and pushing you on the back, and your feet are digging into the ground, and you're like, oh my God, I can't do this. That's pushing energy. And we're really good at that. We're good at taking that and then putting the shoulders to the grind, getting things done. The shift here that makes it natural, that makes it an embodiment, is learning how to sit back and wait for the pull, waiting for that invitation of, does this feel good? So during the work that I do, I don't do a lot of it in my personal practice. I don't meditate all day, every day. I don't journal all day, every day, because every time I do content, every time I sit with a client, I'm doing my own work as well. There has to be balance. And I find that this is a problem with women, is we want to wake up at 5 a.m. We want to do the somatic work, the breath work, the yoga, the journaling. And what we end up doing is we get addicted to the stress that's underneath all of that programming, because we're pushing ourselves. It doesn't feel naturally like a tug of pleasure and desire. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Are you able to lean into what the pull feels like? Because I can hear the woman going, like, yes, that's what I do. But what do you mean about the pull? Like, what does that feel like? What am I looking for? What is it feeling in my body?
So there's two very distinct feelings that I've come to realize when it comes to the pull: excitement and arousal. So those are two very powerful energies for a woman. Arousal is very linked to our creative energy, our desire for life, our kind of like the mischievous side of us comes out. The unashamed version of us comes out. We know that if women have done a lot of work around their sexual energy, that there is no shame around them. There is always like, this is what I want, this is what I get. It's a desire and it's a creativity and it's a process, and it's felt, right? It's that tugging from inside. And yeah, that would be one of the, when you're feeling that energy of arousal, that heat, tune in and go like, am I really actually sexually aroused right now? Or do I have a desire that's brimming with excitement in my body? And a lot of the time it's the desire aspect coming in. I often find that when I've been having great ideas in my business and I've had a really powerful, then I get like tingles all over my body. And my body does like, but this is the same signal we get when we're feeling like that. And I'm like, yes, but it's not the same. It's that portal of energy that's open where everything electrifies. So it feels really alive, really delicious, right? So that's an energy a woman can recognize because it's so close to what we experience when we're in deep desire and lust with our partner. So, that's one of them. And then the other one would be feeling a lightness in the chest, almost like when you want to giggle, or you feel like, oh, that feels fun, or you see your favorite handbag, or you think of like a pumpkin spice latte, and there's like that little bit of like ooh, that energy. That would be tugging. That would be pulling. So it's always a very light energy. It's always it comes so naturally, you're eager to do it.
I love that. I feel like so many women are so disconnected from their bodies that even because it's like a light feeling and it's like a delicious feeling in the body, we're so used to not being in the body because we're trying to protect ourselves from feeling all the things that we don't want to feel, that so many women don't
Yes.
even give themselves an opportunity to feel the good feelings,
Yes.
the light feelings. Is there a way for them to, like, using your modalities and using the work that you do, is there a way to bring women into their body safely so that they can start to experience the
Well,
pull?
the very brave way I'm going to word this is, the one thing is to work with me, because that is the work that we do in a way where a session would feel like we're doing now. It would feel like a conversation. It would feel like having a chat with your best friend. And then at some point, things come up and we go through the chart, and the things are usually like 99% spot on. And then you leave as if you never had a session, because there's no work to do. What we do is reactivate the body to remember its own things, to do its own healing. So we get out of its way by letting it do its job. So that would be one thing. What you could do in your day to day, if you're not working with me, is tune in more to senses. So I like putting AirPods in, because when I then listen to music, I can feel it in my body. When it's outside of myself, there's a lot of other noise factors that I pick up on, and I don't feel as connected. So find the things that feel good for you like that. For me, my day to day that brings in my embodiments is, I have non-negotiable stuff in my routine. Every single day, I have a cleansing shower. And while I'm in the shower, I witness the cleansing. I go like, this is washing off all my stress. I pinpoint where my nigglies are. I see them, I witness them, and I let them go. I don't try and fix it. I don't try and dig into it. I just go like, okay, the shoulder is tender today. We'll be aware of that. That would be one way. That's the start of every day for me. Shower, really good food. So learning to embrace your senses in every sense of it. Food that you enjoy the palate of, that you enjoy the taste of, that you enjoy the texture of. Learn to be more in touch with your body through these things. Things that you like smelling. So recently I washed our curtains and I made sure that I put lots of like softener in. So now every time you walk into a room, you just smell it. Having sensory things come in that you enjoy is really important. We've heard of dopamine decor, where everything in your house hits the dopamine. When you look at it, that's basically bringing in more of the senses. Everything needs to be pleasurable to start teaching the body what pleasure is in a sensory way. And once your senses are activated, you can bring that internally. You can shortcut by working with me and going through the shortcuts, but the longer process and the softer processes, just day to day. And when you find yourself out of that, don't shame it, don't guilt it. That will be the first recognition. When there's shame and guilt, there's pushing. So the moment you shame or guilt, just go like, does this really need guilt? Does this really need shame? Can I have more compassion towards this? And then soften, soften, soften. And as the body softens, it will become more alive.
This is amazing. That is brilliant. It's such beautiful, simple practices that women can implement straight away. And ladies, you can literally start with one thing. Like, some people really resonate with smelling something, or the visual aspect of looking at something, or just
Yes.
pick one thing. I like the eating thing
Yes.
because everyone has food that they like. They love the taste of it. We're always so busy, like, in life, that we're eating, go, oh, this is so yummy, but it's like we're not actually present while we're eating, and we're not actually savoring every mouthful and chewing for long enough, and then actually like absorbing the flavors. And just, even if you did it once per meal, or if you ate your favorite thing
Yes.
and you just made an effort to do it once, it would be a really beautiful embodiment experience. And then if you can do that repeatedly, it's like, it's so
Yeah,
simple.
it is simple, and I'll throw a little nugget in here because I love it.
Yes.
Is when I'm in client sessions, my biggest thing when people are like, oh, but I'm always in my head, and the stomach comes in. The stomach is actually where we think. It houses our thoughts. So that's where the saying
Oh.
comes from. I can't stomach the thought of this, is the stomach is actually our thought. So when we think about, this is going to be a real life practice, this is where the aha moments end up coming in. When you talk about I'm rushing through my food and I'm not tasting my food and I'm not savoring my food, how do you savor the thoughts and ideas that come into your existence? Or do your thoughts run as well? Because those two are always interconnected. The ladies who have manic minds that are always in here, that have labeled themselves ADHD, don't eat well. The stomach isn't slowing down enough for the thoughts to digest.
So can you do like reverse engineering, or I think that's the correct term, where we have manic thoughts and it's like, okay, I want to slow it down. I want to be present with my thoughts. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to consciously, mindfully eat my food and savor every bite as a practice. If we were to do that,
Yes.
Can we actually help our thoughts to like channel through and like, yes, we can. We can actually correct
Yes.
the manic mind through the way that
Yes.
we're eating.
Yes.
This is going to be very...
By noticing the 5 things about every experience, because we always have those multiple senses. What's the texture of it? What's the taste of it? How does it feel when I put it in my mouth? How does it feel when I swallow it? Those things, slowing that down, becoming really like a child to yourself, going like, okay, baby, like, how does it feel? You know how we would mother any small being around us. That's the caretaker energy. Having that caretaker energy within ourselves, going like, how does this feel? How does that feel? Do I like the cold on my tongue? Do I like the heat on my tongue? Is it a little tart? Where does that tartness go? Like, or is it something that hits me in the back of my throat? Is it the numbness of a chili on my lips? Those small notices, little by little, slow the mind down. And even if you have to visualize it right now and you have to do it as a visualization, your body would instantly start going lower into the body, lower into the gut.
So if we're like super stressed and like overwhelmed and chaotic, we could just be like, right, I'm going to go find something delicious that I want to eat, and I'm going to savor it, and I'm going to pay attention to all the senses. What an amazing...
That's why a lot of people have food addictions, right? So they're trying to fill that need with something. And a lot of the time, the body has a wisdom to why it needs that. But the human that's engaging with it doesn't have the mindfulness to engage with it. So I know I don't like coffee at all. But when I'm craving coffee randomly, I automatically know what that represents for me. I know what coffee symbolizes. I know what it does in the body. I know what hormones it releases, what chemicals it releases. Instantly, I'd be like, that's why I'm craving coffee, and go and duplicate that with something healthy, with the more wholesome aspects of it. So not giving into the craving, but understanding why the craving's there, understanding why that need is there, because the body's trying to self-regulate, trying to feed, because it's designed to do that.
Yes, because our bodies are so intelligent. We do not give
very
up
intelligent.
credit. This is you're blowing my mind. You've just given me a gift, because I'm like, I am that person with the chaos in the mind. Not ADHD, but like I'm always in the mind. So this, and I feel like a lot of women are going to benefit from this. This is so good. Thank you, lovely. What is it that you see most commonly when working with your clients, with the women? Like, what are some of the common behaviors or concerns that come through in your sessions? Because I feel like it'll be relevant to so many women.
The most common one at the moment has been fear of success in business. So holding on to very old identities, very old traumas, and kind of knowing that there's a lot of trauma, having tried everything. Those are currently my client base, people who have literally tried everything and gone like, none of it works. I don't believe in any of this bullshit. Like, I've done the EFT, I've done this, I've done that. And then coming to me and going like, I don't know what more to do. And then it's literally like 2 simple things that pop into them, or a cluster of little items where the body just hasn't caught up to what they're doing, and going through the body's wisdoms and recognitions to then up-level them. But a big trend that I've been witnessing, not just with my clients, but with clients in general, is that women have disconnected from their curiosity. So what I find with especially long-standing clients of mine is I can see all their little things long before they see it. And I don't push. I'm not about pushing. So I always drop little nuggets and warm them up to the next idea and the next level. And then once they're ready, they always go like, oh, Angelique, you told me this like 6 sessions ago. Because I have some clients who are addicted to working with me. I've got clients that stay for short periods because their stuff heals. And then I've got clients who get addicted to the work. And they'll be like, you told me about this identity stuff that I overtake responsibility for everyone else. And I told you no, like 6 sessions ago. I'm like, I know. We'll work on that. So that's something that I've noticed when, as women, we do a lot, is we don't have curiosity towards why something is being said or why coaches witness something in us. We have very rigid boundaries because there's a lot of trauma hiding behind those boundaries. There's a lot of unsaid stuff hiding behind the boundaries. So with coaching and with healing, become curious, become playful, almost like scientific about why that exists. Why do I feel actually like this is something I have to reject when someone says it? Because the moment there's a strong impulse, there's something there.
Yes, I agree with this 1,000,000%. And thank you for calling it out. This is a really powerful gift and opportunity for women to be curious without judgment, without shame. Because if women realize that we all do the same thing, it's kind of like, oh, okay, so it's not just me. And it's like, no, it's not just you. And we all need to give ourselves grace and permission to actually just be curious.
Yes.
And not make
it to recognize the stories that were told. You know, I've worked with a lot of women who hold other people's identities in their identity. I've worked with a lot of women who hold responsibility of the world on their shoulders.
Yes.
They'll get upset about something happening in another country. And I'm not saying don't have empathy, don't have compassion, don't feel, but there is a reason why, as matriarchs, we have the energy to bring it home. It is our responsibility to be in our community and to our home. And the whole world is not our community. The whole world is not our home. It is the people closest to us that we ripple in from. And I think that's where women waste a lot of energy, is we're trying to fix things all over the world. We've dedicated ourselves to looking at every news article, looking at all the problems in the world, sending love and light everywhere and scattering ourselves instead of really bringing our power in and starting off small. And that's in everything that we do. Our business, we take big leaps. We do quantum leaps instead of micro steps. We do large scale thinking instead of small goals at a time. We don't savor things, and yet slowing down is what the feminine energy requires. It's slowing down to what is acceptable to us as our body's climate and the cycles of things. I mean, if we look at how the moon and planets affect, like some planets take 30 years to make a cycle. And yet women want to rush the cycle. We rush our periods, we rush our bodies, we don't rest. We push instead of pull.
I feel like you're talking to me. You're airing all my secrets. Literally, you just described me. And I'm sure many...
There's no coincidence what we met.
That is no coincidence. And I just thank you for saying what you said, because I was like, oh, yep, okay. I'm going to be curious about this. and explore this, because yeah, I've been feeling that. So good. I'm curious to know if, because you spoke about the stomach being linked with the way that our mind works, are there other like major organs, just out of like curiosity, and so women can start to understand how you link things? Are there other, what is our heart linked with and what is our liver linked with? Are you able to share just a few like major organs so that we can understand? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So my favorite ones that I pick up on a lot with ladies is liver, which is I'm livid. It's anger. It's all about anger, but it's also all about where our soul encompasses itself as a synthesis. It synthesizes the soul. So when we think of, oh, where does the soul sit in Chinese medicine? That would be the liver, meaning that when we have liver issues or we drink a lot of alcohol and we disrupt the liver, that's the soul that we're disrupting. And I always see it as the CEO. So this is incredibly important for my business ladies out there. The liver is where the soul synthesizes. So it's where our path and purpose synthesize. When we're not expressing our emotions correctly, when we're not expressing what we're divinely led to express, the liver is where that sits. That's where the business ideas come from. That's where the downloads end up. It's all the things that are linked to our soul that come from there. The next favorite of mine is the bladder, because a lot of ladies have the bladder, especially with our nightly urination issues and our easily getting UTIs and all sorts of things that we end up with, which will make sense once I tell you the bladder is all about being pissed off. It's about releasing anger. So it's all about that. And those are the three that I love the most because they're the punniest to work with. The large intestine has its stuff like it literally let go of shit because that's where it releases grief, lets go, moves forward. Heart is all about compassion to the world, self-love, regulation to the world. I actually find the heart itself isn't as interesting as the stuff around it, but that we'll keep for a nugget in a different time. But there is energies around the heart, like the pericardium, the triple heater, and stuff within the Chinese medicine modalities that are more fascinating than the heart itself because they're undervalued areas of existence. Pancreas, so people with diabetes, spleen, that is all about joy. So if you have those issues, look at how joyful life is. We'll know this from Louise Hay and stuff, but within the spleen and stomach work closely together. So the joy of thought, the joy of thinking, how joyful are our thought processes, those kind of things thinking. And they all engage in each other. You know, I've had people come in for stomach and then it's actually the liver bullying the stomach, or it's the heart overloading the stomach. So this is why curiosity exists and not boundaries for us as ladies, because when we put things in containers into little boxes, we're not inviting that curiosity and play, and the energy then gets stagnated. So even if you feel drawn to one of these things that I'm saying and you're like, oh, that's me, don't make that your identity. Please don't make it your identity. Please don't hold on to it for the next 3 months. That's why the curiosity exists, is because it's temporary. It goes like, that makes sense for me right now. It doesn't have to make sense for you and become your identity for the next 10 years, because we do that.
Yes, we do.
We go, I had eczema once and therefore I always have eczema. We go, I had a bladder issue 20 years ago, therefore I speak about it as if I still have bladder issues. Like, ladies, we are very guilty of this, me included. I found myself on old stories multiple times, and I'm like, that story isn't even relevant anymore. Why am I telling it?
It becomes part of our identity, yeah? So it's like, of course I'm going to talk about it. It's my identity.
Yes, we cling to the meaning of it. The guys don't do that. And that's, I think, part of why when we spoke about relationships, learning to be curious in the full agreements of like, every day is your best. Like, their best is their best in that day. Mel Robbins would let them be them, because they have 24-hour cycles, 48 hours at most. They can filter through emotions and trauma and things way quicker than we do. I know my partner wakes up with a reset button. We'll have an argument. He'll wake up. He forgets that he even existed. He's like, what argument did we have? And I'm like, that thing you said that hurt me? And he's like, I said that? Did I say that? He forgets.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hold on to it. I hold meaning to it.
Mm.
So this is a good experiment of self to go, can I let things go without attaching to it?
Ladies, take notes. Take notes, be curious, and practice it. Practice it. Now, Angelique,
Yes.
I'm very curious about your sessions. How can women work with you if they're like, I want to work with her, I want this thing? How do they work with you?
So you can find me on my website, asanahealing.com, or on Facebook, Asanic Healing. Or if you don't know how to spell that, just find me as Angelique Koster. I'm super friendly online, so you can just DM me and say you heard about me and you want to work with me. Currently, I have a trend of packages. So I've got the money flow and I've got the shadow sanctum. So it's all about going into the shadow, and the shadow not being all the things we hate, but all the things we reject, even if it's a vulnerability in a dream or a success goal, all the things that we kind of like put in the dark. So anything in the dark, that's in the shadow sanctum. But I also do one-on-ones where it's like ad hoc if you want to experiment and see if it's for you. That's not on the menu though, so you have to DM me to get access to that. Just because that's a bit of a vetting process to see how well we gel with each other. Everything else is open on my website to book and do as you please. It's all one-on-one at the moment, so you still get lots of hands-on customized attention.
Oh, we love this. We love this. Amazing. I'll make sure to drop all your links in the show notes as well. And I usually ask towards the end, and you've already given us actually, but is there one small practice or even just a contemplation that women can start implementing right now to start experiencing coming home to their bodies a little bit more?
Throw away the to-do list. I love a good to-do list. I really do. I have several for multiple different things in the house. The difference is that it's there to get the stuff out of my mind and not for me to guilt myself into doing all the things. So I get this question a lot in practice. So this is why I want to share it. Ladies ask me all the time, how do I do the things more? How do I do more? And my only answer to embodiment is do less. So I have non-negotiables in my day. As I mentioned, a cleansing shower is one of them. Really good food is another thing. My third item on my list every single day that's non-negotiable is reading. I will read at least a page a day because reading is my love, my passion other than this. So like these two compete all the time. There is no way in hell that I do not read every single day. That is my non-negotiable. So have 3 non-negotiables for yourself that make you feel good. Everything else, the affirmations, if you forget to do them, don't care. If you don't meditate, don't care. Like learn how to be more present in your life versus the to-do list items of all the things that coaches tell us to do.
Yes. Yes, what self-love is and what self-care is and all the things to do, just adding more stress.
Yes.
Love that. So find 3 things.
Adding more stress.
Yes, yes. Find 3, and I love that they're 3 simple things. You know, we generally have a shower every day, so that's already done and taken care of, and we eat every day, so you know, having nourishing foods
Taken care of.
We can do that at least 1 meal, and then you're reading one page a day. I think that's amazing, and it gets to be that simple. So I love that. Thank you.
It gets to be that simple. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
That's the biggest lesson, is make it simple. Like
we're so good at complicating.
Well, Yes.
Seriously. Because we feel like
Yes, we are.
if it's not if it's not complicated, then we're not doing a good job, or it's like this weird, this is like
Convoluted beliefs we carry.
conditioning around like how we have to do all the things in order to be validated or be seen as worthy or accepted in the village. I don't know. It needs to stop. So I love the simplicity. Thank you.
I think, that came in as a consciousness collective belief system when we don't have distinct roles anymore. If we go back into human physiology and psychology for a few hundred years ago, everyone knew exactly where they fit in. We now have endless opportunities. And just look at the stress of going to a restaurant and there's 17 to 20 items to choose from. It's overwhelming. That's why most of the best CEOs in the world, most of the wealthiest people in the world have capsule wardrobes. They wear the same thing every day. It removes the fatigue of making choices. Unfortunately, we live in a world now, well, fortunately, it can be looked both ways, but this is where we start challenging our thoughts, get curious about thoughts is, am I fitting into what I actually desire and what I actually want to do? Or am I overloaded with so many options and choices that I don't actually know what it is that I'm doing or wanting?
Yes. I have no words. Yes. We do. That's exactly what we do. I think we unconsciously do. We overload ourselves
Yeah.
with so many choices.
We've got too many things. We can be painters, we can be construction ladies, we can be accountants, we can be teachers, we can be all these things that the body ends up going like, there's so many things to do. Which one do we do?
Yes.
A few centuries ago, that wouldn't have existed for us. We would have been satisfied with being in, if your mother was a seamstress, you'd be a seamstress. Your grandchild would be a seamstress. If your family were bakers, you'd all be bakers. Everyone had a concept of where they fit. And I'm making it sound simple. I know there's a lot to it. As we all know, there's more complicated than that, but just bring that energy in of simplicity, of looking at it through like, if I had to be in a family of people that did things, who would I be? What would I want? Instead of chasing the rabbit whenever it pops up in the field.
That's amazing. Thank you for that question. I'm going to sit with that.
Pleasure.
That's so good. So then to wrap up this call, what is, or do you feel like there's something else that you want to share, or do you feel complete?
I'm happy. I'm content.
Yes. Thank you.
This is a kind of topic I could endlessly speak about. So if anyone wants to know more or continue it, this is the invitation to come and talk to me about it. I do actually I just opened it. It's called Just My Cup of Tea. It's a 30-minute chattery with me. So just talking absolute nonsense, insights, just having fun. Like I have that open as a free booking on my site, just for exploration of like bouncing ideas, learning from each other. So that's also there.
So we should book one of those in then, shouldn't we?
Absolutely.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for being on this call and
Pleasure.
sharing your magic, your wisdom, your uniqueness, and your fascinating approach to supporting women. My desire is that many women come to work with you and experience your medicine because it's so unique and then yet so applicable to everyone. And it's such a huge opportunity for women to really like come home to themselves, like finally free themselves of all the burdens that they've been carrying, all the trauma, or all the excuses, all the hardship, the aspects of being a woman that they've been carrying. So thank you for being on this podcast and sharing your magic.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yay. Thank you for being here, gorgeous woman, for rising with us, remembering with us, and refusing to shrink inside a world that benefits from your silence. If this episode moved you, cracked you open, or reminded you of who the hell you are becoming, share it with a woman who is ready to rise too. I want to invite you to follow, subscribe, and leave a rating so this message becomes too loud, too wild, and too undeniable to be ignored. The movement grows because of women like you. Women who choose truth over comfort, liberation over obedience, and voice over disappearance. You can connect with me, Samantha Sanford, at Rebel Matriarch, and all links to our guest are in the show notes below. Until next time, stay rooted, stay rebellious, and remember, the world changes when women refuse to disappear.